Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, folks, I gotta say, that, in my opinion, was one of the worst games of the entire year for the New York Mets. Whew, whew. Not good, not good, not good. The New York Mets essentially had an opportunity today to be the Grim Reaper. The New York Mets were 13 games up on the Atlanta Braves. They have 7 games, now 6 games left to play against the Braves in the next week and a half, and they could have put their opponent to bed. But what they did was not that. What the New York Mets did is give the Braves hope. They gave the Braves life. They gave the Braves confidence. The New York Mets had this game. This was the formula the New York Mets used the entire year. Good pitching. David Peterson, freaking phenomenal game. But you know what? It was wasted because of the 8th inning. Marcell Ozuna, bases clearing double off of Reed Garrett, who came in the 8th inning to relieve Peterson. I mean, you know what, folks? You could question the decision to leave him out there for the 8th inning, or you could question the decision to give David Peterson 2 batters in the 8th inning. Nonetheless, the New York Mets had an opportunity to get out of that 8th inning, didn't get it done. Reed Garrett got 2 big outs with the bases loaded, made a mistake pitch to Ozuna. Ozuna capitalized. That tied the game. You know, still, the New York Mets had their big boys coming up in the bottom of the 9th inning. Juan Soto, he's the first man up. All right, Juan Soto, $800 million man. This is your moment to prove you are worth that paycheck. But, Juan Soto gets up, gets on base, hits a bullet. Great. He's on base. Now you got Pete Alonso up, no outs. The Mets are in business. And you know what? Okay, bad 8th inning, but good teams still overcome those type of instances. But this was the frustrating part. Pete Alonso hit a bomb to right field. Ronald Acuna, that is, goes back on the ball. He's at the wall. He leaps, makes a phenomenal catch. This is an all highlight, all-star reel, whatever you want to say. This was a phenomenal catch. Catches it at the top of the wall. And for some reason, Juan Soto gets caught. He gets caught, and he's looking at the umpire to make a call. And he gets caught up. He gets doubled up at first base and doesn't get back in time. And that's a disaster. That is the only thing that cannot happen. And that is what you learn in Little League. You go halfway. If he comes down with the ball, you run back to first. 1 out, man on first, you're still in business. But that was essentially the end of the inning right there. The Braves, they would get out of that inning unscathed. We get the extra innings. The Mets really go out easily in the top of the 10th inning, making no noise whatsoever. No noise at all. And, at that point, you kind of felt like the game was lost. You go to the bottom of the 10th inning. Braziban comes in the game. And at this point, the Braves had all the momentum. And, they essentially, got a couple of men on, put pressure on the Mets. And, there was a deep fly ball. It was hit to center field. It was bases loaded at the time. So it was bases loaded at the time, and Riley had the sac fly. The winning run, Luke Williams, would score. But even in the bottom of the 10th inning, you had a disastrous play. I mean, the Mets had their opportunity to actually get out of that 10th inning. We really did. Braziban, all right, he's in the game. Braziban's been doing good all year. It's in the bottom of the 10th inning, so you have the runner placed at second base, and the Mets start off the inning by walking Acuna. Okay, Acuna's been killing you. You put him at first base. Now you have the force set up, first and second. Alex Verdugo comes up to the plate, pops up, first and second, 1 out. And you're in pretty good shape. All right, so But I'm sorry, before that, the highlight of the play, and this is where the Mets messed up, you had that wild pitch, and that allowed Luke Williams was going to third base. He gets caught between second and third, and Alvarez, instead of running out to third base, where you run to where the lead base is, he throws it behind the runner. He throws it to second base. And of course, Luke Williams is going to advance to third. Honestly, they said on the broadcast, you could do two things. You could run towards third base, or you could throw the ball to third base, which third base is the lead base. But for some reason, Alvarez throws to second base. Yes, he had a little, a mind issue there, but it was not a good situation because the lead runner advanced to third. And then you issue the walk to Olsen. That essentially loaded the bases. Then, as I said before, Riley, all he had to do was put a good piece of the bat on the ball, get it in the outfield, deep enough for the lead run to score, tagging up, and that's what happened. And the Mets, this game was lost a couple innings before, but you had a couple disastrous plays. The Soto, that was unacceptable. You cannot get doubled up. Alvarez, that play, the catchers got to throw towards the lead runner. You can't have that happen. Carlos Mendoza, you want to blame him for leaving Peterson in there just a bit too long. Reed Garrett, as good as he was, he left that ball too much over the plate. Didn't have enough. Honestly, didn't really break at all. It was right in the middle of the plate. Inside part of the plate, always Ozuna. Ozuna is very good at tucking his hands in and getting to those pitches on the inner part of the plate. I've seen him do it so many times. I'm like, all right, you want to throw this ball outside? You want to throw it in the dirt? You even want to throw it high, elevate the ball high and in. But no, you throw it in his hot spot. And, those was essentially killers in the game. All right, folks. Now, this was a horrible loss. Not the end of the world. Mets are still 12 games up. They are still 2 games up on the division lead. But you know what? Like I said, this could have been the beginning of, just shutting the door on the Braves. The Braves, yes, in the last couple of years, they have always been considered the dominant team in the NL East. They have always been a huge thorn in the sides of the Mets, but times are changing, and the New York Mets right now have to prove that the Braves are yesterday's news, that the New York Mets are the dominant force in the NL East. Now, I still believe that the New York Mets are a much better position than the Braves for the future, and even now, obviously, they're 12 games up. But you remember the Mets, they're doing this with a pitching staff that is freaking decimated. Now, I don't want to make excuses. The Mets are on a 4-game losing streak, obviously losing 3 over the weekend to the Tampa Bay Rays, and now losing the first game of the series to the Atlanta Braves. This is their worst stretch of the year, right? So we could, be doom and gloom. We could really look at things, but we got to step back. The Mets are still in a decent position. They have a bunch of their team on the injured list, a bunch. Literally almost 60 to 80% of their starting rotation. You could say 80% with Tyler McGill now going out. You got Tyler McGill. Obviously, Kodai Senga going out. You haven't won a game since Kodai Senga got injured. How ironic is that? I always say this team is built on momentum. You lose your ace in Kodai Senga, and you haven't won a game since, but you're losing Kodai Senga, Tyler McGill, and obviously you have Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas still fighting to come back from the injuries that happened before the year even started. So the New York Mets are decimated in the freaking starting rotation. Good thing is a lot of these injuries are not supposed to be long-term. Montas, although he has been getting crushed in these, I don't want to say they're not spring training, but a lot of these rehab games, he should be coming back soon, which will take some stress off of our pitchers. And obviously you have Manaea coming back soon. McGill, this is not supposed to be a long-term injury. And Senga should be back in a little over a month. So yeah, I mean, the good thing is all these pitchers should be coming back soon. The Mets will have to compensate. They will have to make up, a lot of innings. So they're gonna have to close the gap with a lot of pitching help, a lot of pitchers that you have in your system. You have depth, but the Mets were relying on more of their aces. That is why getting a game from David Peterson like this was phenomenal. I mean, it's phenomenal just to see. Like, you want to see, obviously, from a Mets perspective, you want to see this guy make the All-Star game. You want to see him rewarded for his success. You don't want to see like a couple bad pitchers really like just throw water on this guy. I mean, this guy was phenomenal all game. His sinker, slider, he was locating the entire game, generating ground balls galore, making everybody look kind of silly at the plate. He had his pitch count low the entire game. This was the David Peterson that people expected years ago, right? Years ago. And a lot of times we had a debate on this channel. Would you extend David Peterson before the season? Give him a long contract, 5, 6, 7 years. And a lot of people said yes. And the reason why is they said last year and, the end of 2023, you see what David Peterson could be, right? You see what he could be. A lot of times he was injured early on. And a lot of people were also saying that this kind of was reminiscent of Zach Wheeler. And if we could lock up this guy at age 28 until he's, for the next 5, 6, 7 years, that would be ideal. Now, that is still, a possibility. You still could lock him up, but you want to see David Peterson ascend to that ace level, especially with Kodai Senga and Sean Manaea still on the injured list. All right, whatever. It wasn't meant to be. It didn't happen. The New York Mets are going to have to get ready for game 2. All right, there was still good stuff this game. Despite Juan Soto not having great, a great time on the bases, he did look pretty good in the box. I mean, the home run that he had to start off the game, I thought it was really fitting. I mean, this is a new day for the New York Mets. This is a new day for Juan Soto making his mark and making it in a big way against a division rival. And I thought, what better way to make your mark than a home run in the first inning to left center field. And that's basically where Juan Soto hits the ball when he's hot. All right, so you start up the game 1-0. Mets take the lead, and Spencer Swellenbach, who was the pitcher for the Braves, always had, in the past, has had the Mets number. So, you know what? The Mets get off to a 1-0 lead. The Mets would get 2 runs. They would tack on 2 more runs in the second inning. Tyrone Taylor would have a big double. Francisco Alvarez would score. Jeff McNeil would score. So that was a big hit by Taylor in the second. That brought the Mets lead up to 3-0. The Braves would then get 1 in the third. The Mets would get another in the fourth. So essentially it was 4-1, and that's when we went into the 8th inning, and then all went to hell. Okay, folks, it is what it is. But, folks, there's another conversation I want to have with you. And, leave your comments on today's game. It's just one game. It's frustrating. It's just one game. Okay. And if you didn't get a chance, like, subscribe. It substantially helps out the video. So, Dominant Mets Nation, I know we have a lot of great members, subscribers. So, do your thing and hit that like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed. All right. So, but what I do want to talk about is I want to talk about the Rafael Devers trade. And I asked this question before the season. I said, would Mets fans want Rafael Devers as an option? And you knew what the contract was already. It was around 8 years, $260 million, 9 years. So depending, around 9 years, $280 million. He's making about $30 million a year, right? Going into his age 28 season. Or would you rather Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 10 years, $500 million? Because obviously Vladdy hadn't signed the contract yet. So would you want to play Vladdy about $50 million for 10 years? Or get a Mr. Rafael Devers at, a bit of a discount, about $30 million a year. So, there was a debate going back and forth. I felt the advantage went a little more towards Guerrero, people opting like that. But in my opinion, I think a guy like Rafael Devers has really, gotten a bad rap in the last couple years specifically. The Red Sox, in my opinion, this is not a Red Sox channel, but the Red Sox promised in the beginning of this offseason that they were going to suspend Bregman. They were supposedly going after Juan Soto. They got Garrett Crochet. They were going to add money. Well, it seems like they were adding money with maybe the intention in the back of their head that they were going to trade Rafael Devers. Now, I don't like that at all, because as much as people may not like Devers because, he might have been perceived as being selfish, we don't know what was going on in the clubhouse. We do not know the behind the scenes conversations, but on the surface, what we did know is that he refused to go off of third base initially. Then you get Bregman. They're like, oh, you're not good enough to play third base. Now you're a DH. Then they asked him, we're like, okay, we need you to play other position. And he's like, no, you said I wasn't good enough at the beginning of the season. I'm done. So the relationship over the last couple months, kind of really deteriorated between the Red Sox and Rafael Devers. Nonetheless, Rafael Devers is one of the young superstars that has come up throughout the Red Sox, through the Red Sox system. And the Red Sox in the last couple of years have traded away Mookie Betts. They have traded away Chris Sale. They have let, some of these big time players get away and really nothing to show for it. So the Red Sox fans were very upset, very up in arms. Now, how is this relating to the New York Mets? Okay, well, the indecision or the bad decisions of the Red Sox is coming back. Yeah, it's going to come back to hurt the Mets, because now you have Devers going to a team in the Giants that needed a bat. Badly. The Giants, they have always notoriously been good at pitching. This year, they've had a really good pitching performances from a lot of their studs. But they needed that bat. Chapman hasn't really been performing like he should. Willie Adames hasn't really been performing as he should. And the Giants have had so much trouble signing that big star. Now they get a top 10 bat. And here's where I'm getting back to the Mets. Rafael Devers, you have not seen the best of Rafael Devers, in my opinion. In my opinion, you have a disgruntled player that has not been treated right in the last couple of years and has been really, stuck in the mess of what the Red Sox have been in these last couple of years. After they won the World Series, I believe in 2018, around that time, the Red Sox have been trouble finding out what they want to do. Do we want to spend money? Do we want to go the Tampa Bay Rays way and not spend a lot of money on big talent, trade away our players and develop talent? The Red Sox have been kind of like it's stuck in really no man's land. So Rafael Devers, if you really look at his career, and I'm going to make my point right now, Rafael Devers started off like a monster. His first full season in 2019 at age 22, he had his best season. His best season at age 2022, he had a 5.4 wins above replacement. He had 54 doubles, 32 home runs, 115 RBIs, 311 batting average, 360 on base, 916 OPS. Guy was phenomenal. 2020, I'm not really counting. It was a very shortened year. 2021, you had 38 home runs, 113 RBIs, 280 batting average. Those 2 years, I think you saw the best of Rafael Devers. Then after that, there was, I think, Rafael Devers not getting the best. The Red Sox not getting the best out of him. And I think a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Despite that, still had a 4.5 WAR in 2022. Still went 27, 88, 295. Then 33, 100, 271. This year, he was hitting 15 home runs, 60 RBIs, 56 walks, 400 on base. So he is one of the best bats in baseball. Where he would have fit on the New York Mets as a 28-year-old is he would have been that left-handed bat that, you could say right now he would have been behind Pete. What did we have today? We had Jeff McNeil batting in the number 5th position. I am tired of having Jeff McNeil bat 5th. I mean, to add salt in the wound, I had it down in the bottom of the 9th inning after Lonzo made that big out. Then you have Jeff McNeil striking out. I mean, Jeff McNeil, yes, he's had a couple big hits, but Jeff McNeil's 33 years old. Jeff McNeil is yesterday's news. Rafael Devers would have been that boss move. Now, you're saying it's a lot of money. Well, folks, you're paying for a guy who is, Juan Soto light at the box. Juan Soto light, even though he has better numbers than Juan Soto this year, he has 56 walks. 56 walks this year. His eye has, this year has been the best it ever has been, which is really looking good. 15 home runs, 58 RBIs. He has a career batting average of 280, very good. He has a career OPS of 860, a career OPS plus of 130. Just for context, Lindor's career OPS plus is 120. So he's a lot better career hitter than Francisco Lindor. But, obviously he's nowhere near the fielder. He would be your DH. And the Mets have not had a DH. I mean, you can kind of look at him as your David Ortiz for the next 6 or 7 years. You make a trade for him, $30 million for the type of hitter he is, in my opinion, is a steal. And if you want to get creative and you want to say, the guy's going to be productive for 5 or 6 years, then the next 3 or 4 years, the end of his contract is going to be crap. So you get a little creative. The Yankees with the Giancarlo Stanton contract have the Marlins eating some money at the end of the contract. So maybe you negotiate, maybe you add in an extra mid-tier prospect. Say instead of paying him $30 million the last 3 years of the contract, maybe you get not San Francisco, you get the Red Sox to eat $10 million and you give them a little better of a prospect. I mean, the Red Sox didn't get much back in the package. They didn't get any substantial major leaguers to the San Francisco roster. You can't tell me the Mets couldn't have put a better comparable package. It was mostly about taking back the money. That's what it was about. And I think the Mets, with this situation, could have easily took back the money. And what else does it do? Well, folks, I know people are thinking, Pete Alonso. If you get Rafael Devers, you're not getting Pete Alonso. Well, folks, number one, it gives you insurance just in case Pete Alonso wants a ridiculous price. Because I tell you this, folks, Pete Alonso is going to demand way more than $30 million. That's how much Pete Alonso is making this year. So you're going to have to pay Pete Alonso way more money than what Rafael Devers is making, right? You're going to have to sign Pete Alonso to at least I would say at least a 3-year contract. I'm thinking at this point he's going to be looking for a 4-year contract. Pete Alonso next year is, I believe he's going, let me see his exact age. So Pete Alonso will be 31 so he's going to be 31 and a half. 31 and a half. So if you sign him to 4 or 5 years, he's going to be playing till 36 years old. Rafael Devers is going to be playing until 37. So, I mean, they'll both be playing to comparable time periods. Only thing is, Rafael Devers is going to be a little younger. And then at the end of the day, the New York Mets, if they want to, they can continue to give Pete Alonso these massive contracts with options after 1 year to entice him to opt out so that the Mets don't have that long-term risk, and you still have Rafael Devers. And how nice would it be to sandwich Pete Alonso with two of the best lefties in baseball? The best lefties. You have Juan Soto batting third, you have Pete Alonso batting fourth, and you actually have a legit DH and legit 5-hitter for the first time since the DH was instituted. I mean, and that right there will be hands down. I mean, you can say the Mets have the best lineup of baseball, but Other lineups will, you could say the Dodgers. You could say other lineups can compete, but New York Mets would hands down with Francisco Lindor, Rafael Devers, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, hands down would have the best lineup in baseball, the best weapons in baseball. Then, if you want to make a trade down the line, if you want to offload some salary, you could do that. You build up Rafael Devers' value. He's still only making $30 million, folks. I mean, you make the trade this year, in 2 years or a year, he's 29, 30 years old. He's got 6 years left on his contract. The guy's a beast, but you don't want to take the long-term thing. Then you could flip him for some talented prospects because he is only making $30 million. Or you work on improving him defensively. You show the league what type of play he can be. But at that point, you might not want to trade him. But at the end of the day, I think this was a missed opportunity by the New York Mets. I know the young kid's this, the young kid's this, but is Ronnie Mauricio, is a Luis Angel Acuna going to ever be a Rafael Devers? I don't think so. Jet Williams, is he ever going to be a Rafael Devers? I mean, he's going to be a nice player, but, you're talking about a top 10 hitter in baseball who, like I said, in the last couple of years, I do not think we have seen anywhere near his potential. That's just my opinion. Think of yourself when you go to work. If you're unhappy, are you going to give your best production? Even if you're like, I'm one of those guys. I don't care. I'm going to give my best no matter what. There's always something that could make you better. There's always, whether it's a work condition, whether it's your environment, whether it's your colleagues, whether it's your tools. There's always, whether it's your resource. There's always something that can get you better. The Mets are going to empower all the players. They have great leadership. They have great mentorship. They have great coaches. They have great analytics. They have great resources. They have great equipment. Everything. You get the best of the best when you come to New York Mets. And that's why you see pitchers come to the New York Mets, performing well. I know in the last couple of days, we've had some regression, but this is why the New York Mets currently are still number one in the NL East and have been one of the top teams in baseball for the last year. I mean, folks, over the last year. So we are talking about a substantial amount of time that the New York Mets have been dominating at the top of the sport. All right, folks. So let me know. Again, we would have to talk about the terms of the deal. We're not getting into terms of the deal. All I'm talking about with the Rafael Devers is if I were the New York Mets, I would have definitely explored that situation. Let me know. Would you have explored it, or is it silly? Is it silly to just explore possibly trading for one of the best hitters in baseball? You let me know. Let me know any other opinions. What did you think about today's game? Definitely a lost opportunity. And any other comments, concerns, drop down in the section. Remember to like, subscribe. Thank you for tuning in to Dominant Mets Nation. I do appreciate you all. And folks, have a great day. Don't worry, it's just one game, and a little bad slump happens.